Hi. Hold on, Mia.
Cool. So thank you everybody for joining the January Economic Development Committee meeting. Happy New Year to everybody, and thank you for taking the time on such a crazy day to join this committee meeting. We have a couple of items on the agenda today. We're going to be hearing about the Tech Training Center construction updates. We're going to be working on a resolution and then also talking about the special district and sort of next steps. If you are a member of the public, please type your name into the chat and also your affiliation so we can have it on record. We will leave time after each or during each agenda item to ask questions. Please use the raise hand feature in Zoom in order to be added to the line to ask questions. We always let board members, community board members ask, or committee members ask questions first, and then we'll let public members or public representatives ask some questions. So we can go ahead. Megan just left. Hold on. We're going to start with the approval of the minutes from December 2020. We can't hear you.
Motion to approve.
We'll do a roll call vote though. Hold on, I can pull it up and do it. Okay, so we'll do a roll call for the minutes. Anisha Stephen, yes. Megan Joy.
I just admitted her. She should be back in a second.
Okay. Megan, yes for minutes.
Still nothing. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Awesome.
Okay, I'll just keep on going though. But yes.
No, yeah, I'm okay for. I'll take the minutes. Just give me 1 sec.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on with my Zoom. Did you already do roll call?
I just did me and you.
Oh, okay. I can. Yeah, Alistair Economakis.
Yes.
Andrea Gordillo.
Yes.
Herman Hewitt. Herman.
I don't see Herman on.
Joe Kearns.
Yes.
David Louie. I saw him on.
David's on.
Okay, we'll give him a minute.
Yeah, yes, sorry.
Oh, hey, David, thanks. Alexandra Militano.
Yes.
Richard Ropiak.
Yes.
Rodney Washington. No, I didn't see him either. Andrew Comey. I didn't see him either. Andrew?
Andrew, are you on?
Okay.
Yes, I'm on. I just
Oh,
have
hey,
to
Andrew.
turn the news off.
I know it's hard.
Okay, great. So minutes are approved. Let's move on to the Tech Training Center update. So I'll turn it over to Josh and Andrew. I'm not sure if Andrew's on, but
yeah,
Josh.
I didn't see Andrew. I actually just sent him a text message to see if he's joining.
Okay.
But you have me and Spencer Levine from my team on as well.
Cool.
And I think we'll start with construction, which I'll let Spencer talk about first, and then we can get into like leasing and some of the other activities that are going on in the building.
Great.
Could you do me a favor and identify yourselves?
What was that?
Can you identify yourselves and your organization?
Oh, sure. Sorry about that. I'm Josh Ween, and Spencer Levine. We're with RAL Development Services. We're the sponsor and developer of the Tech Training Center, also known as Zero Irving. It's the old PC Richard building that we got approved through ULERP it's probably about 12 or 18 months ago at this point. No, probably 24 months ago at this point. And we're going to give you a quick update as to the progress of the building, what we're doing with the initiatives that we agreed to as part of the approval process, and kind of where we are at this point.
All right. Spencer Levine with RAL. Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. As you will see out on 14th Street, we certainly made a lot of progress in the last year, despite what's going on in the world. COVID has certainly had its impacts on the project and obviously the world as a whole, but we have been working to mitigate any of those impacts throughout the process. The project topped off in the first week of September. The curtain wall, all the glass on the outside of the building, both the north and the south facade, will, for the majority of it, be done within the next couple of weeks, with the exception of the piece that is at the end of where Irving Place would terminate. That's probably a month or two behind. We look forward to hopefully completing the core and shell of the building, which is our base building construction, for tenants to start occupying for their own fit out, hopefully around April. That is a couple months behind just due to the COVID delay and having our shutdown, and then just kind of systemic issues that came throughout the construction process, supply and logistics chains and things like that have been affected. But overall, we're very happy with the progress. We have, obviously, the face of construction has changed drastically with the evolution of COVID. We are doing as much as we can to keep everyone safe, as we have always committed to on RAL sites. But we're doing temperature taking every morning. There are questionnaires answered by all the tradespeople every morning. We as soon as we were able to get back to work after the initial shutdown, we distributed hand washing stations throughout the building, and just overall trying to keep as clean a site as possible. Because of the nature of the work, we've actually been able to maintain some level of social distancing throughout most of the project, and we've been happy with the environment that we've been creating, a safe space for people to come and work every day. We hope that same ethos continues on throughout the life of the project. As I mentioned, we'll be hopefully getting TCO in the April time range, with final CO soon after that, but TCO will welcome people into the building. You'll see, we discussed on our last CAB meeting, our Community Advisory Board meeting, that we have been trying our best to respond to any comments that we've gotten from the community as it relates to pedestrian traffic, vehicular traffic, deliveries, and impact on neighbors. And I think we've been keeping up with that. It sounds like from our last meeting, we heard that was going well. You will see some changes to the pedestrian traffic along 14th Street in the coming weeks, just as we work to finish up the facade. We'll be rerouting pedestrians back out of the building and into the more permanent traffic patterns. So that's pretty much the status of the building and construction, and happy to answer any questions that might come up.
Sure, hooray.
What's that?
Please mute yourself unless you're asking a question.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
If there are any questions, please raise your hand.
Question, but I can't raise my hand. Same here.
Joe, are you on?
Okay.
Let's see. looks like people aren't able to raise their hands.
Yeah, I can't see any hands raised, but I'm able to raise my hand. Like, I just did. Oh, there we go. Cassy Banks.
Well, Megan, if you have any questions, you can.
No, sorry. I was just raising my hand for.
Are there any questions from the committee?
Okay. Anisha, I've got a question if.
Sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the last time this committee met you guys, we were discussing opportunities for how the community can become more engaged in the building and the opportunities it will offer. One of them being the food hall on the ground level, about getting local small businesses to have the opportunity to sign leases in there. So I wanted you to touch base on that and see just like what kind of outreach you guys are doing in that perspective, and also the for Civic Hall. I know that there's, it's obviously a tech training center. And I don't know whether you know this or not, but what they're doing to outreach specifically to our direct neighborhood.
Sure. I actually, I wanted Claire from Urban Space to be on this call to actually give more of an update, but unfortunately she couldn't be. So what we're doing is we're actually having them work directly with the different community organizations. I know that they've been in touch with Pedro from Carlina's office, first of all, as well as Gaspar. I think he's on this call somewhere, from Lesson. And they're getting feedback from them as to what different local businesses and or potential businesses would be interested in starting food programs within the Urban Space Food Hall here. I know they've reached out to a bunch of other vendors, both local as well as some of the other companies that have graduated or potentially come out of their other spaces. Right now, I don't know if anybody's familiar with the organization Somersault, that we already have a signed LOI with them. And they're actually talking to about 8 or 9 other potential food vendors right now. But if anybody on this call or anybody in the community has any leads on potential businesses that they think would be interested in joining Urban Space, we can put you in touch with the right person from their organization as well. Again, we have a commitment here that 25% of all the food booths are going to be reserved for first-time entrepreneurs, and we're 100% committed to meeting that requirement.
Great. Josh, does it make sense for you to continue with your portion of the presentation before we take the rest of the questions?
Yeah, I mean, I can go through it. Again, a lot of it, I know Andrew's on the call right now. A lot of the stuff that's related to the benefits for the community are going to be related to Civic Hall and FedCap space. So I'll let Andrew kind of go through that. But in addition to the Urban Space Food Hall, where we have the 25% commitment, we are trying to work with other local businesses as well about the potential step-up office space, which are the 5 floors within the building that are they're dedicated basically to short-term leases. And the idea behind that is if there's any businesses, whether it's local or it could be expanded as well throughout Manhattan or the outer boroughs that are interested in moving to this building, we've made space available for, again, the short-term leases with limited security deposits. And again, it's right now, just in general, I'm sure you guys all know the leasing market is tough. It's not what it was, pre-COVID. And we're making the modifications to the building that we need to do in order to make this building as attractive as possible. But unfortunately, I don't see too many businesses right now signing leases until they actually see what's going to happen after the pandemic is over. So we're out there, we're talking to people, we're taking any potential leads that are available. Any leads from the local community, we are more than happy to meet with and discuss potential opportunities with. But right now it's just honestly just a little bit quiet. And with that, I see Andrew O'Shea is on the call, so I'll let him talk about Civic Hall.
Hey, everybody.
Andrew.
Sorry, I'm a little bit late. In any case, Civic Hall is on track. for the most part, to still fulfill all of our obligations that were originally presented to the community board during the entire ULURP and approval process. The biggest change, not in the commitments, but the biggest change in our efforts to make those commitments a reality is that we've partnered with FedCap, which is a extremely well-known and highly respected workforce development organization that's been operating in New York for decades, to be our partners to help us stand the project up. They have been running workforce development programs and a number of other social justice type programs like Single Stop and Easter Seals and other programs to ensure the economic stability of their constituents. And they were an original partner of ours in our efforts to win the project in the first place and offered a letter of support. And they have leaned in and have joined us in planning out the building of the facility with all the classrooms and the conference spaces and all of the resources that we're hoping to provide to members of the Lower East Side community and other members of the New York City community from underrepresented communities to be able to get the kinds of technology training that they need, and then job placement in jobs that are higher paying and have stronger economic stability for them and their families. There's nothing about the agreements that we made with the community that have changed. We've just become a stronger organization because we're partnered with FedCap, and FedCap and RAL are working closely together on the completion of the lease and are hopefully going to be able to turn over the space for us to construct our portion of the building starting this early spring, and that we still expect to open the building, at least our portion of the building, to the public by the end of the year. Hopefully when the vaccine will have taken hold and people will feel comfortable again going into physical spaces for physical training, et cetera.
Great.
And
Thank
then just quickly, I'm not sure if everybody on this call remembers, maybe they weren't part of the original community board when we were going through the process, but just a quick reminder. So some of the commitments that this building has made both to the community and the city as a whole, as part of this Civic Hall space, there's that one full floor of event space that is going to be made available to community user events 52 times a year. We have the 3 floors of digital skills training, and then obviously the additional 2 floors that are going to be part of Civic Hall and FedCap's operations.
Okay, thank
There's
you.
some questions, I think.
Yeah, so I see 2 hands from board members. So Richard, go ahead and go.
I apologize. My attention was slightly distracted when you were mentioning FedCap,
Yes.
but I don't recall them being part of the original discussion that the community board had with you folks. What is their legal status going to be in the building? And if so, will they be occupying any space under a lease or other agreement?
So first of all, they were part of a large group of community organizations that submitted letters of support for our application to the city for the project in the first place, and sent representatives to the presentations that were made to the community board during the ULURP process. To answer your second question, at the moment there is no signed document between Civic Hall and FedCap. However, we are in the midst of discussing a merger between Civic Hall and FedCap that would result in Civic Hall still existing as a separate 501c3, but FedCap basically standing behind us with the securitization and the financial wherewithal to secure the lease and to help us build the space. So we are in the midst of discussing that, and it's part of our negotiation with RAL. But Civic Hall will still. I'm sorry, is that someone?
Could anybody who's not speaking mute there?
Yeah, I don't know what that
Anisha,
is.
is There is one number on there I don't recognize. It's just like it's just a number and they're not on mute. I don't know.
Let's see.
Oh, I think it just.
I just removed them.
You just removed them.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little worried that I had said something really bad.
Not yet.
Hey, Andrew, there's always time.
I'm making something bad.
Well, there he is again.
It's the Cassy
Andrew, you're really.
Cassy Banks is what's showing up.
I dare you for sure, man. I'll get you on my.
Yeah, sorry, it was the Cassy Banks that was causing the noise.
Is that now clear?
Hey, yo, you thought you removed me? You're wrong, man. You wrong. I want that date. I got.
I just removed both those two. So,
Great. Are we good now? I think so.
I mean, I don't know, hopefully, but I'm here, so I'll try to remove them.
With what's
Thank
going
you.
on? It seems like a lot of storming of official proceedings today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Richard?
so does that answer your question?
Yes, but if you would be so kind as to keep the community board apprised of the changing status of the relationships in the building,
Yes.
that would be helpful to us.
Yes, and I just want to be clear that there was no intent, Richard, not to. We actually informed the community advisory board of this this partnership arrangement in our formal meeting with the advisory board, and we viewed that as the first step in communicating our status. But we will definitely, as this continues to develop, if there's any substantive change to what I said, both RAL and Civic Hall will let everybody know.
I think it's important to note also, Richard and Andrew, you can confirm this or that, all the commitments as far as programming and whatnot, that there's no change there. It's just it's a administrative change on Andrew's end. So
yeah, it's really to give us the fortify us to be able to actually deliver on this. And by the way, I'm still in touch with the local, my organization and my team are in touch with the local workforce development organizations, particularly Henry Street Settlement and Perscolis. And it is our intention to continue to deliver exactly what we promised and on time. And hopefully, as I said, if the pandemic can clear, we can contribute to the recovery of New York because we'll be helping to create jobs, sustainable jobs by the end of this year. I think there was another question from.
Rodney had a question. He had his hand up as well.
The question was answered already.
Okay.
Thank you, Rodney.
Thanks, Rodney. Harry, your turn.
Hey, thanks a lot. I have one quick question about construction and one about the space use. On the Department of Buildings website, I see since 2019, there have been 17 oath violations and 2 are still open as of today. I know I saw last year in May, a worker was rescued. A worker was rescued from a scaffold last year in May. And then in August, there was a $5,000 fine for a worker that had to be carted away in an ambulance, according to online public website. I wonder if that's a customary number of violations and how those workers are doing.
I can answer. Thankfully, everyone is perfectly fine. I believe everyone has any incident has resulted in those workers returning to work. Construction is dangerous, and we do pride ourselves in having very safe and actually unusually safe construction sites. We do, as everyone knows, I think everyone on this board knows, we do Build Union, which does add another level of training and safety to the projects, as well as our general contractor, Suffolk Construction, has a national, a very stringent national policy for safety and worker safety. This and every project that RAL builds is about everyone going home safely at night. It's not, I mean, that's really what I can say. Unfortunately, construction is dangerous. Things do happen. We try to prevent and mitigate anything that happens. And I think any specific violations are obviously looked at and dealt with by the general contractor. We participate. They have daily safety meetings. They have weekly stand downs. They definitely, I will say, do execute a safety program that is second to none. It truly is more than I've seen anywhere, and we fully support that. So that's really.
Thank you. The other question was about space. You mentioned the food court and the step-up office space and open to the community to share suggestions of tenants and stuff. As for the rest of the space, people were very skeptical about an office building and preferred an affordable housing development here. Do you have any other tenants in the market rate space?
Are you asking if they're signed?
Yeah.
So we have not announced any signed leases at this point. We're talking to a bunch of different tenants right now, but there's nothing that we're ready to announce.
That's it. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for RAL or Civic Hall? Oh, Victor, I see your hand raised. Is it for this item? Okay. Great. If there are no other questions or comments from the committee, thank you both, or thank you all, Spencer, Josh, and Andrew, for your time. I appreciate you joining our committee meeting.
Happy New Year, everybody. And
yeah, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. And we look forward to future meetings as well and giving you guys updates as we progress through the project.
Cool. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
So we're going to move on to our resolution to support Chinatown businesses that have been left out of some SBS programs. Because we're working on the resolution, I'll let, if the community has any comments they'd like to share those now. We'll let speakers have around 2 minutes to speak. Please try to keep things brief. So we can go ahead and start with Victor.
Mute. Can you hear me?
Yes.
One of our friends, David Fong from Fong On, posted. He runs a small business, and he has a bank that he was associated with when the first round of pandemic money came through. He tried to apply. The bank didn't even want to submit the application. And this is somebody who's actually educated, college, so he's not old school Chinatown immigrant. A lot of the people in Chinatown, they just had no clue. I mean, we got hit since January. Chinese New Year. I mean, basically January 25th. It's almost a year that Chinatown's been down. I mean, most of Chinatown's business is based on tourists and restaurants and foodstuffs, and when you look at it, the money disappeared in 2 weeks. Boom, gone, right? Now the supposedly second round of stimulus is supposed to be coming, but how do we get onto the pipelines? Or is there a special earmark or something? Because obviously we're not even included in the zip code 10013. I mean, most of Chinatown is in 113. So how does these decisions get made? It just seems like, Chinatown's always an afterthought, but Chinatown right now, I grew up here. I'm 70 years old. And I've never seen it this bad. Economically, Chinatown is at its knees right now. Half the businesses are closed and will never open again. A lot of people are out of work. When we had food pantries, the lines were 3 blocks long. And nobody hears our plea, like Chinatown needs help. Not only, I mean, it's one thing to just change a zip code and fill out an application, but you know, Paul Ng in Phong An, he said, there's no way. The banks don't even want to help. They don't want to be bothered, you know what I mean? They don't want to be bothered. And because he persisted, he was able to get some stimulus money, but most of the business cannot get through the paperwork and all the BS that I mean, obviously, if you're the Los Angeles Lakers or Kanye West, you know how to fill out these forms because you have people to do that for you. Who's doing this for Chinatown? All these immigrant businesses that are going under one by one. Who's helping Chinatown right now?
Thank you for sharing your comments. I think we'll keep on discussing how we can be supportive. Jan Lee, you're up next.
Thank you, Community Board 3, and thank you for creating a resolution. This is the first time I'm hearing about it, but I think that by the creation of a resolution, we're moving in the right direction and recognizing, again, the difficult situation that we're in. And I echo what Victor has said, we're really at our last legs here. I wanted to enlighten the board. If you guys don't know already, some of us have been in contact with the commissioner and members of his staff from SBS itself. And part of the reason why we're in this predicament with regard to the SBS zero interest loan is because, as Victor pointed out, the 10013 part of the Chinatown was left out. And through discussions with the commissioner, he has recognized that that was not the way to distribute these loan applications, and is in discussions with Chinatown now to figure out a way to fix that problem. We actually don't know what metrics they're going to use yet. That's not been made available to us. But one thing that we do know is that they acknowledge that zip code was not the right way to do it. We have a history of losing out on things when Chinatown is divided by zip code. Child care services, seats have been removed. Social service issues are being taken away from our community because zip code was the sole metrics. And so I recognize a lot of the great people on this call, and I know that we need to work harder and better at letting our agencies know that zip code simply isn't a true barometer of the makeup of Chinatown's businesses, but also a makeup of the residents and the needs that we have here. We continue to work with small business services. I've worked with small business services in the past, and I know that there's good people there who have done great things for Chinatown businesses. They have not been absent. They've actually been present during the pandemic. What's disappointing is that, you know, oftentimes politicians will come to Chinatown and photograph themselves on Mott Street. And so it's very puzzling to us that you could photograph Mott Street and visit the stores on Mott Street, and to be so blind that when an SBS program is rolled out in November the 25th, to not understand and not stand with us as politicians to say something is grossly wrong. And so we would hope that the politicians who are so brave to come to Chinatown and use our community as the backdrop for their offices and for their agencies would also stand with us now to figure out a better way. So thank you again, Community Board 3. We appreciate the fact that you're giving it the attention that it deserves.
Thank you. Think Chinatown, you're next.
Hi, everyone. It's Yen from Think Chinatown. Like Jan, I've been engaging with SBS since early December on this issue. I just want to share some points through many rounds of discussion. So SBS, as Jan mentioned, has acknowledged that zip codes are not a good indicator for relief programs, but we need to include this shift into SBS standard operating procedures for developing relief programs in the future. It's the end of the administration, there's going to be shifts in the agencies, so we must make sure future relief programs will not use zip codes in the future. Census tract data, definitely the better way to go. And definitely already used in dispersing loans by our CDFIs. Second point is that programs such as these interest-free loans should be dispersed by our local CDFI, which is Renaissance. Their staff has the language capacity to do proper outreach, in-language outreach in our communities. We must empower our local CDFI to do this type of work, and they should be included in the building of these types of programs. Third point is outreach in Chinatown should include these elements: the bilingual printed materials, press conferences geared to Chinese language newspapers, segments on Chinese language radio shows, and door-to-door outreach. So a lot of work, but we have to acknowledge this work. If we want this type of program to touch down to immigrant neighborhoods, to the most vulnerable neighborhoods, we have to do this work and we have to fund this type of work. Discontinuing the use of first come, first serve approach. We totally understand everyone is eager to get these programs rolled out, but this is not the way we do equitable distribution of these resources. We need phases and rounds to get these resources distributed equitably. 5 is seek and incorporate feedback from communities during the development phase of the program. Everything is new. It's why we need SBS to engage us while they're developing these programs for us. They should be built hand in hand with the communities they're trying to target. Things that I would like to learn more from, and I think we will as we continue to engage with SBS, is seeing what their numbers are like in the Chinatown area that's in the 10002 zip code, seeing how many were able to apply and take advantage of the LMI storefront loan, and seeing if it's comparable to other neighborhoods in the area, and understanding how, if there are shifts to the program to be more inclusive, that'll also include the interest rate reduction grant as well. And those are my points, and I hope that you can include some of those in the resolution, and I thank Community Board for creating this resolution. I think that's a really great step forward.
Awesome, thank you. Victoria Lee is up next, and then Megan, and then Susan.
Okay, great, thank you. Hi everyone, I'm representing Welcome to Chinatown, and we are also one of the community organizations that has been actively participating in discussions with SBS, working closely with Jan and Yin on this issue. So really echo the sentiments that everyone has said, and what I want to add is just some of the data to articulate the need within the community. So Welcome to Chinatown, we have seen, I've lived in Chinatown for the past 10 years, pretty much grew up here. And there is this exacerbated need given how prolonged the impact has been with COVID. So we took it upon ourselves with Welcome to Chinatown to develop our own grant program to address the inequalities of businesses being unable to access any type of relief funds, especially the points that Yin just hit home with and some of the resolutions she's proposing. We found that very much so when we developed our grant program. So to date, we're issuing 40 grants, $5,000 each. We had close to 100 applicants apply, and the need was demonstrated in 113. Nearly 63% of our applicants came from the 113 zip code. We ended up awarding to about 55% of the applicants. They were awarded to 113 based on the criteria for our longevity fund, which is what the businesses contribute to the neighborhood and what would be the risk to the residents if the businesses were to shutter. So they're really businesses that are very much rooted within Chinatown that are key. So it's very unfortunate, detrimental to see that they're not receiving that support. A lot of the things too, this program has been touted as being addressing for POCs, for Black, Latino, and Asians. 98% of our applicants were Asian. And I actually think for the 113, it was 100% were Asian, and 50% of them employ 100% Asian staff. So it really tells you, what it means to not be included within this LMI program. And the last point I want to bring up is about that first come, first serve that Yin just highlighted. We actually did door-to-door canvassing for our applications. We know we can't assume that everyone has technology access, and 26% of our applicants actually applied with paper. On top of that, 1/3 of those applications were non-English speakers. So they actually came back to us in simplified and traditional Chinese. This is why it's so detrimental when you have this type of first come, first serve process, because it just takes time to digest that information. So really hope that out of this, and thank you for allowing us to have this forum to present this information, but that will work closer to prevent this type of oversight from happening, and thinking about what types of resolutions that we can incorporate in the future, as well as some type of immediate resolution to ensure that there's aid for 113.
Great, thank you. And thank you to Welcome to Chinatown. I found out about the issue through your Instagram post. So I appreciate you sharing all the information. Megan.
This question's for Think Chinatown. You had mentioned 2 other criteria that they could, SBS could use instead of zip codes. Do you mind repeating that?
Sure. Census tract data, I can, so according to Renaissance and a conversation, this information can also be found in the tax returns of a business that it's required to make a loan. Also, you can track what a census tract's income level is through various websites. I can put one in the link, but it's really not hard to find out if your census tract is low, high, or moderate income. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great. And just speaking from personal experience as somebody who's also applying for one of these loans, it's so onerous. And this is somebody who's, first language is English and has a 4-year, college education. Like, I mean, there was at least 40 different things I had to upload and projections. And I mean, it's not easy. I can't imagine being, English, not my first language, and trying to tackle that.
Yeah, and it's definitely important to have all the supported materials in language and ready to go when these types of programs are rolled out, exactly for those reasons, so that everyone has a fair shot of getting the support they need.
So Susan, did you have any questions or any comments on this?
My question, which was going back to the previous speaker, was outreach not done bilingually for the grants? Are they being done just in English?
So I can't speak about the way that the LMI program or some of the previous grants and how materials have been translated. I do know in talking with many of the businesses, for example, with the PPP loans, by the time that they either got maybe some of the materials translated or understood what this information was, they're already essentially a step behind because of how long it takes them to process that information. We also have to consider, I think, the education levels within the neighborhood, that there is a lower amount of people who have high school, who have graduated high school and so forth, which also impacts too when we're working for Welcome to Chinatown. We think about how our grant language and our application language is structured so as not to initially deter these businesses too from applying and making it truly accessible. So I think too, how the applications are shaped on top of as well, making sure that they're easily found and easily accessible, which is why we do that door-to-door outreach and initial translation from the start.
I understand everything you're saying. I had thought that we pretty much had an understanding with most agencies about, outreach being bilingual, trilingual as needed. And I really think that as a very basic, aside from the complexity of the grants, but as a very basic, that should be a separate conversation that's very important. And also, as far as the zip codes, we have had many programs that became not accessible to our community because of zip codes. It is particularly hit after school programs. So the concept for any program of using zip codes in a community like CB3, where we have, wealthy census tracts right next to lower income census tracts, just doesn't work for us. And that might also be a separate position we might want to consider across the board.
Jan, do you have a?
I just want to answer Susan. In discussions with SBS, they have pointed us to a particular staff member, Michael Fong, whom I've not yet met, but apparently has language ability. And I think that what we were left with is people who are within 10013 who have been denied. They're supposed to get in touch. This is very important for people to know, that SBS right now is available to anyone who has been denied the application who is in 10013. We don't know what they're going to do with them, but they do want people to reach out immediately. I already have 4 businesses that have reached out to me who said that they were denied based on zip code. So they do not want this to be the case moving forward. They want to have conversations, and there is someone in SBS who has language ability to handle those calls.
Great. So let's go ahead and pull up the resolution draft that we had circulated yesterday. Joe, if you want to pull that up on the screen, we can start with that and make some changes given all the comments that we've heard today.
Yeah, give me a second.
Sure.
Also, for the ease of the person tasked with writing the resolution, I did drop a link to points for reference in the chat.
Thank you.
Sorry, I can't open it with Google Docs, so.
Joe, if you make me a host, I can share it.
Okay, yeah, let me just, yeah. Okay, I just made you a host.
Cool, thanks. Can you guys see that now?
We see the minutes, not the resolution. Oh, now we see it. Great. Do you want to read it through? And then we'll take comments.
So many open boxes. Support for Chinatown businesses to be included in SBS COVID-19 relief programs. Whereas on November 25th, 2020, the New York City Department of Small Business Services announced the NYC LMI storefront loan program to address the needs of small businesses in low to moderate income neighborhoods that are struggling due to the pandemic. And whereas COVID-19 has emphasized the inequalities that previously existed among our different communities, as acknowledged by the city administration. And whereas the criteria for this loan program is restricted to businesses that are located in low to moderate income areas of New York City, as defined by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and is organized by zip code. And whereas this particular methodology, while not intentional, misses many small businesses whose zip codes have been excluded, particularly Chinatown zip code 10013, which also encompasses the high-income neighborhood of Tribeca. Wealth disparity between neighborhoods, but within single zip codes is more common in Community District 3, which has the second highest gap between the lowest and highest income households among New York City community districts, and should not be the cause of small businesses failing to qualify for such badly needed programs. And whereas many small businesses are already in debt to the federal Small Business Administration for economic injury disaster loans or Paycheck Protection Program loans, and grants, not loans, are what is needed now. And therefore it be resolved that Community Board 3 requests that SBS not use zip codes as criteria in areas that have great income disparity within a zip code in order to address the needs of impacted businesses. And be it further resolved that Community Board 3 requests SBS to expand NYC LMI storefront loan program to include areas of Chinatown that do not currently qualify, and create a targeted outreach program to make such businesses aware of the LMI loan so that they could be afforded an equal opportunity at financial support during a critical time.
Thank you. Alex.
Can you make the sentence that begins with wealth disparity its own whereas clause? Because I think it's an important enough idea on its own to be offset from the other idea about 10013.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
And someone noted in the chat that 10013 might also include Soho in addition to Tribeca. Alex, do you have any other comments? Thank you. Does anybody else have any comments or amendments, changes that they would like to make?
I think we should include the suggestion of using census data.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say we definitely should not just say don't use zip codes. We should say in lieu or an app, we should positively affirm that zip codes are not the way to go and census tract data is the way to go. I don't know how to articulate that, but.
I'll look up the Soho zip code. Shirley, you had a question?
Yes. So regarding this usage of the zip code, and forgive me if this is just a simple question, but reading this letter, it says it's talking about the areas of Soho and Tribeca being included in the zip code where it's based on wealth. Now, the majority of the business owners don't live in Soho and Tribeca, so this is already a flaw in itself using this criteria of who's eligible for this loan. Because if you're talking about business owners, you want to talk about what their bottom line is, not the wealth of the people who live in that zip code. So just bringing that point up, and so I just think that should be reworded. We don't want to talk about income. We want to talk about the businesses. We don't want to talk about the income of the residents in the zip code. We want to talk about the small businesses that are eligible for the loans, because obviously it's not the people who live there that's making a lot of money that owns these small businesses. They work in jobs that they have the luxury to work from home. And unlike those who in the service industry, like waiters and daycare workers, home health aides, and those in the restaurant business. So I just want to bring that point up.
Thank you. Let me think of how to address that in this. And Megan, did you make yes,
but I didn't really explain why census tract. So I just write down here, I wrote, and then therefore be resolved. I wrote, in order to address the needs of impacted businesses, rather to use census tract data. Is that the right way to say it? Census tract data. I mean, I think this may address what the last speaker just noted too. Yeah, you use census tract data that target.
She has a suggested clause as well.
Oh yeah, who about this one that we're talking about? So maybe to use census tract data that targets the revenue of the business. Is that correct? Because
That's not how it's census tract data is captured.
but wasn't the woman from Think, I'm sorry, what's the name of the speaker from Think Chinatown?
Yeah.
No, she's suggesting that
Yeah,
there's,
it's-
oh, go ahead.
It's still based off of resident income. I think, unfortunately, it is the way that it is tracked because they're using the buying power of the local residents
Right.
to determine need.
Oh.
It's just that instead of a whole zip code, it's a smaller geographic area. So it's pinpoints. For instance, within 10002, there are like moderate and low, like there's different, within a zip code, there are moderate, low, and high, and averages out to be a low. It's designated a certain way, but it doesn't mean that, for instance, Census Tract 29, which is the core of Manhattan's Chinatown, is actually a low income tract, right? So it would have qualified for this program had they been going by census tract versus zip code. It's just a more geographically fine pointed tool.
And census tract is TRACT.
Oh, that makes sense. Which uses a smaller geographic area that is able to pinpoint specific income areas. I don't know how to finish that sentence.
In order to address the needs of impacted businesses, rather to use census tract data, which uses smaller geographic area that is able to more closely pinpoint
income level.
Income level. Alex, did you have a suggestion you wanted to put in?
Yeah, I wouldn't have put the explanation in the therefore clause. I would have created a whereas clause, and I did actually draft one. And you can use it and change it if you like, but I would have put whereas in lieu of identifying eligible applicants by zip code. You had said census tracking, but I know it's census tract data should be employed as it better identifies actual potential applicants and businesses who are in need. And then I would put, if you want to include an explanation like that, because it targets a smaller geographic area, I think it's better. It's better placed in a whereas clause. And then the therefore clause would just say rather to use census tract data.
Okay.
We'd have a whereas clause that addressed the therefore clause.
Do you feel like putting that in the chat, typing that in the chat?
Not particularly, but I will.
Well, it's easier than me trying to.
Thank you, Alex.
So that's like a question my grandmother would ask me. Sorry, can't help myself.
Sorry, can I ask if we can add and that therefore that SBS not use zip codes as exclusive criteria for all future programs or something like that to really, or I guess one of my first points was that it needs to be included in SBS's regular practice. And it's not just this program, because this program, we all have to be honest, is already pretty tapped out. We have to be focused on the next disbursement of funds.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if we're doing what Alex said, we could just say a Community Board 3 requests that SBS not use zip codes as an exclusive criteria for funding programs, or period, and then get rid of all the rest of that stuff.
Yeah.
I was wondering if the board would also like to address the elements of outreach that we discussed earlier, which was the first come, first serve, and also funding community partners to do the outreach. And it's like specifically empowering our CDFIs to do the outreach.
I think that makes sense. We can add it to the last bullet clause. I didn't realize that Renaissance wasn't administering this program.
The program is only administered by one entity, and that is Pursuit, which is based actually in Albany,
right?
And not very diverse. So Renaissance was part of the interest rate reduction program, which only applies to businesses that have already obtained loans, and then they get the grant to help them with their interest. So that has only pertained to small number 10002.
Got it. So
Megan, I think if you just end that therefore as rather to use census tract data, period. And then Alex is explaining everything in her whereas.
Yeah, okay, great. Do you, what suggestions do you have for including more information about outreach?
Sorry, were you asking me?
Yeah, I'm sorry, what's your name?
Yin.
Yin, sorry, Yin. Yeah, Yin, did you have something particular in mind, like a whereas in mind for our outreach?
Yeah, let me pull up. If I dropped a link if you want to borrow language from there. It's
okay.
I think chinatown.org/LMI-loan.
I'm sharing my screen, so this might be a little tricky.
So one is funding that these programs should be dispersed by our local CDFI, which has the ability to do this in language outreach. And then I also outline the elements of what outreach, effective outreach looks like in Chinatown.
The one that says number 3.
Number 3 outlines what outreach should look like in Chinatown, effective outreach should look like. And then also 4 is, the discontinuation of the use of first come, first serve, which I think is very important for equitable distribution of resources.
Can the committee see this on my screen right now or no?
Yep.
Yes, I think you can just change 2 and 3 into whereas clauses.
Into whereas is right. Is the committee okay with that?
Yeah, by putting whereas in front.
Start with 2, Megan. Start with bullet point 2, funding for interest-free loans specific for Chinatown. There we go. Perfect.
Okay, I'll clean it up in a second.
Press conferences geared to Chinese language.
Oops.
So if they don't do first come, first serve, does that mean that people have to, they approve all the loans first and then get them out?
I think the idea, May, is that it would be done in rounds. So that the funding would go to those most in need or most qualified for this type of loan, rather than saying just because you applied first, you get it.
Oh, so they have to have a deadline and people have to get it in,
yeah.
right?
But rounds
okay.
where you say like a percentage of funds are, within this first round, and you reserve funding for later rounds. For the
Oh, okay, so
discretion
people
somehow.
still can kind of get them in a timely fashion, right?
I would take "our" out of that paragraph that you're working on, Megan, in front of CDFI. The second one. Oh, and also the first one, "our local." And I would combine the sentences in the next paragraph so that it says geared to Chinese language newspapers, segments on Chinese language radio shows, along with door-to-door outreach. To reach, take out, it's a lot of work, but I would say to reach the most vulnerable businesses. Hold on. I may move those words around a little. Whereas outreach and I guess I would say outreach in Chinatown should be a collaborative outreach strategy that includes community partners, essential to overcome language and cultural barriers, and these elements should include.
So new sentence after vulnerable?
No, I would just change this sentence around to say, whereas outreach in Chinatown should be a collaborative outreach, it should include a collaborative outreach strategy. Take that last clause of the sentence. You see it? It's like the very last clause, comma, a collaborative outreach strategy that includes community partners.
Where did it just go?
Also, maybe to make it inclusive, can you change Chinese language to maybe Chinese languages?
That's fine.
And other newspaper and radio, you can just say media, right? I mean, it's, because there's also TV and other stuff, right? So say press conferences geared to Chinese language media.
Oh, wait, great. She hasn't gotten past the beginning.
Sorry. Alex, go ahead. A collaborative.
So whereas outreach in Chinatown should include a collaborative outreach strategy that includes community partners, essential.
Yeah.
So, to overcome language and cultural barriers, and these elements should include.
Whoa, hold on.
No, you've got it. Outreach in Chinatown should include. No, you got. Well, you're putting whereas it
should include. Should include.
Go ahead. A collaborative.
Should include. What happened?
You got it. It's that last right there.
Yeah,
the last
sentence.
Cut and paste that.
Yeah, I just tried to. Okay, a collaborative.
So what she's saying is outreach in Chinatown is there's two things. There's a multi-pronged approach to the materials and the media, and then there's the collaboration with the partners.
Let's let Megan finish this one piece first before we keep on moving on.
Yeah, can you let her cut and paste and then we'll.
Oh, okay.
Whereas outreach in Chinatown should include a collaborative outreach, should include a collaborative strategy that includes community partners.
Essential.
Oh. Essential to overcome language, cultures, barriers.
And should include these elements. And then it lists the elements, and then when you get door-to-door outreach, in order to reach the most vulnerable businesses. And I want to make sure I haven't left any idea out, but I don't think I did. And you may want to put within immigrant neighborhoods, just because that's included in that idea. I think it's important to keep it.
Yeah.
Is that better?
If you want me to change Chinese languages, media or newspapers.
I mean, also another thing, if you want to go that route too, is if you want to broaden it to outreach in immigrant neighborhoods should include, and then if you want this to be broader, or if you want it to be neighborhood specific, this is up to your board.
Well, I mean, I feel like we're concentrating on Community District 3, right? And
You can write within these immigrant neighborhoods.
Yep.
Because it's consistent with the rest of the motion.
Great.
Okay, does that sound okay, that first one?
You know, if you want to cut some stuff down, I think the stuff about reaching out to there was something about newspapers and radio. You can take that all out and just say Chinese language media.
I think it sounds better. Chinese languages media doesn't sound right.
No, so it's Chinese language media in, you know, the various.
Yeah. Okay, okay, now let's work on the next one. Yeah.
Or if I'm Dominic Sinkowski from Welcome to Chinatown here. If I might make a suggestion, someone else also mentioned this in the chat, that you might also include Chinese social media such as WeChat. A lot of the community is on there as well, and you know, city government is no stranger to, say, Facebook, Instagram.
I think that
The
might be
Chinese
included on
language media, comma, social media.
Traditional and social.
So Chinese language media, both traditional and social.
If you have other suggestions for folks, if they could raise their hand in the chat, that would be great, or in the Zoom function. Are we ready to move on to the next clause? Great.
So maybe, Megan, this just says, whereas SBS should discontinue the use.
That's more of like a therefore be resolved though.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it is.
So I think it should be maybe like, whereas the first come first served approach results in an inequitable distribution of resources.
Yep. I don't think you need the hyphen. I think inequitable is a word.
Thanks.
And maybe you want to write after the first come first serve approach, now employed in this application process.
Okay.
And we take out the rest of that.
Sorry. Do you want to say why it results in an unequal?
No, I think that end it there and then say phases or rounds of applications would result in a more equitable distribution of resources. Yep.
Okay. A lot of copy and paste mistakes here.
I think that one can be removed also.
Are we missing one? Oh, this first one, right? Oh, hold on.
Yeah. No, you already cut, you used that. That can be deleted. The
Yeah.
second number one can be deleted.
What is going on?
No, that stays, right?
Do you have it in two places though?
Yeah, hold on. I just, this is, needs to go, but this still is a thing, the CDFI thing. I have it in two places. Yep, this can go. Okay.
I think
No, that can go,
also a
Megan. 'cause
copy.
That can go too, because you have the whereas outreach below it.
Yeah, it was just a copy and paste jam. But there, we still need the one that says, whereas funding for interest-free loans specific for Chinatown should be dispersed by our local CDFIs.
Yeah,
You have two of them.
you have two of them. So you have a whereas clause right above the one that says number one.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Yeah,
So the one, yeah, that's it.
all right. So that's it.
That's it.
I'll just clean it up a little bit, put it in the right font, but that's basically it. Okay.
That's it.
So why don't we read it once through again and just see if there are any final.
Yeah. The whole thing?
Yeah, I feel like there have been a lot of changes. So.
Okay. Whereas on November 25th, 2020, the New York City Department of Small Business Services announced that the NYC LMI storefront loan program to address the needs of small businesses in low to moderate income neighborhoods that are struggling due to the pandemic. And whereas COVID-19 has emphasized the inequalities that previously existed among our different communities as acknowledged by the city administration, and whereas the criteria for this loan program is restricted to businesses that are located in low to moderate income areas of New York City as defined by the Department of Housing and Urban Development and is organized by zip code. And whereas this particular methodology, while not intentional, misses many small businesses whose zip codes have been excluded, particularly Chinatown's zip code 10013, which also encompasses the high income neighborhoods of Tribeca and Soho. And whereas wealth disparity between neighborhoods but within single zip codes is more common in Community District 3, which has the second highest gap between lowest and highest income households among NYC community districts, and should not be the cause of small businesses failing to qualify for such badly needed programs. And whereas many small businesses are already in debt to the Federal Small Business Administration for economic injury disaster loans or Paycheck Protection Program loans, and grants, not loans, are what is needed now. Whereas funding for interest-free loans specific for Chinatown, specific to Chinatown?
Yeah.
Should be dispersed by local CD, by the local CDFI Renaissance. Beyond executing loans, CDFI should be funded to conduct in-language outreach for relief programs. And
I'm sorry.
What?
Can we add in the before, maybe specifically targeted support for, I think it was 2 above.
Sorry, where are you looking? What sentence?
Here, I'm trying to find your screen.
Megan, for that, whereas clause, whereas funding for interest-free loans specific to Chinatown should be dispersed by the local CDFI Renaissance. And the two sentences sound weird, like, and beyond executing loans, the CDFI should be funded to conduct in-language outreach.
And whereas outreach in Chinatown should include a collaborative strategy that includes community partners essential to overcome language and cultural barriers, and should include these elements: bilingual printed materials, press conferences geared to Chinese language media, both traditional and social, along with door-to-door outreach in order to reach the most vulnerable businesses within these immigrant neighborhoods. The word includes is a lot there. Which that includes me. Well, anyway, that's just a little language.
Sorry, at the one above, whereas funding for interest-free loans specific to Chinatown, can we add the words for the interest-free loans specifically targeted to support Chinatown? Thanks.
Can we go back for a second and look at zip codes? I think I put it in the channel a couple of times. I do believe that 10038, it looks like it's in Community 3's confines, and I believe they were also omitted, and that also includes Chinatown and Two Bridges.
Well, that's good, because this whole resolution is about having them not include zip codes in the future. So,
but should they name the area also, though? Because I think you already put in 10013. So since you highlighted that, you should also put in 10038 because it's already been omitted. So if you're pointing out one zip code, you should also include that in that other one, so that.
No. We're pointing out that because those zip codes are included, it creates an income disparity. That's the reference there. So we're not saying this, they should be included as a means of determining who gets money. We're pointing out that okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
we can add it in. Has anybody else? I've only heard about the this as it relates to 10013.
No, it's definitely 10038 as well. I mean, I can send you an article, but it's kind of like a neighborhood article. Like, let me just find it.
Is 10038 in CB3 in Community District 3?
You can tell me for sure, but I looked it up and it looked like it was.
Okay.
Susan should be able to
Susan
tell
still
us.
on?
Yeah.
Hi, this is David. I don't believe 10038 is included. My office is in 10038, and I know it's not included within District 3.
Okay.
Did you go all the way to the East River though? All the way south?
We do go all the way to the East River, but we go to South Street, but there's
I'll send it in the link, and you guys can check out later.
okay, yeah, but if it is, I'd be happy to include it if the rest of the committee is also.
And you guys were talking about social media and I think what media types. I think it's also important to note that Chinese is not only one written language, it's simplified and traditional. Mainland China is mostly simplified. You should also, for people from Hong Kong or other Chinese neighborhoods, you should also include traditional. So I don't know if non-Asian community is aware that it's kind of two different written languages. So one might not be able to read the other.
Got it. We can.
The CB3 website has the map of our board. I mean, of the district.
Yeah, I think it includes it. It's all the way to the East River. And Two Bridges is right at the East River. It's under 14th Street. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's correct.
Okay, maybe we can,
I'll check it. Do you want to keep on going, Megan?
okay. I'm just going to read this outreach one more time. Whereas outreach in Chinatown should include a collaborative strategy that includes community partners essential to overcome language and cultural barriers, and should include these elements: bilingual printed materials, press conferences geared to Chinese language media, both traditional and social, along with door-to-door outreach in order to reach the most vulnerable businesses within these immigrant neighborhoods. And whereas the first come, first served approach now employed in this application process results in an inequitable distribution of resources. Phases or rounds of applications would result in a more equitable distribution of resources. Doesn't sound great. Phases and rounds of applications would be a more practical and equitable, what do you think, more?
No, how about just say, not result in, just say would be a more equitable distribution. Would result in a more equitable distribution of resources. Yep. Yep.
Okay, cool. Therefore, be resolved that Community Board 3 requests that SBS not use zip codes as exclusive criteria for funding future programs, rather to use census tract data. And be it further resolved that Community Board 3 requests SBS to expand NYC LMI storefront loan program to include areas of Chinatown that do not currently qualify, and create a targeted outreach program to make such businesses aware of the LMI loan program so that they may be afforded an equal opportunity of financial support during such a critical time.
And somebody
have to get yours, Alex.
that issue around traditional language.
Right. So it does look like there's a small overlap in 10038.
So we're going to say particularly Chinatown zip codes 10013 and 10038.
Yeah, but we already have that clause after 10013, which explains that it includes Tribeca and Soho, which wouldn't be true for 10038. So
yeah, that one is, it's like FIDI.
is it? So then I maybe could say which also includes and
Why do we still need that? Okay.
Should you specify it's 10038 as it pertains to CB3, or since it doesn't all fall into CB3?
well, I don't think any, I mean, 10013 doesn't all
either
fall into all of CB3.
Let's keep it that, I mean.
Yep, it looks fine.
Yeah.
Do you want me, I mean, I added the 0038. Do you want me to take it out?
No, I think I would say what you did is fine.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Were there any other last comments? There was, Megan, you said there was something towards the bottom.
I just added this. Let me just read Alex's. Alex's one is here. Whereas in lieu of identifying eligible applicants by zip code, census tract data should be employed as it better identifies potential and potential actual applicants and business owners in need.
Megan, I didn't change that. I gave you an alternative to the first include because you said there were too many includes in the next paragraph down that's not on the page.
What, that
Outreach in Chinatown should consist of a collaborative strategy.
Yep. Did you added something to the,
I would change the first include to should consist of.
oh, good, thanks.
And then Megan, somebody put in where it says Chinese language, both. I'm just trying to find the comment in the chat.
Simplified and traditional Chinese.
Yeah, both simplified and traditional.
So bilingual printed materials.
Should be by, give the choice. You could just put it in brackets after Chinese language, put both simplified and traditional.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Yep.
All right. It's a little bit wordy, but I guess it'll do.
About the simplified and traditional, I'm just reading the paragraph. Press conferences, I imagine, you know, an oral event. The simplified and traditional refers to the written materials.
Oh.
The various Chinese languages, Mandarin, Cantonese, that's the spoken stuff.
So where should
Maybe
we
after
put
bilingual?
both simplified and traditional?
I would, I'm not exactly sure on the fly what would be like the most, you know, economical way to do it, but
Sorry. Can you just put bilingual printed materials consisting of both simplified and traditional Chinese language and press conference geared to Chinese languages?
Who insisted upon the simplified and traditional thing? I mean, did someone here say they wanted to see that?
Yes.
Because if not, oh.
A few people.
The residents from the community.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
people have suggested it.
But sometimes it's implied, but you know, if they want it to be explicit, well, I guess you can have it.
Bilingual printed materials consisting of both simplified and traditional Chinese languages. No?
Yeah, I think that's okay.
And then wouldn't it be press conferences geared to Chinese languages, comma, media, both
Yep.
traditional and social?
Hey, if you want to cut a word, you can cut the word languages. It's okay to say both simplified and traditional Chinese.
Chinese, that's what I thought.
It's okay to say that.
And it looks like you got an extra space between bilingual and printed. If we're trying to make this perfect. What seems like it's what we're doing.
All right.
Yeah, we should move on, huh?
Yeah, we should. Any other final comments? Otherwise, we can move on to the next item. We can do a vote on this at the end.
Looks good to me.
Okay.
Thanks for your input, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much. Is Susan still on? Let's see her. Well, anyways, we'll move on to the special district. So I we did reach out to Avima. So basically the last meeting, sorry, my dog is freaking out. At the last meeting, we decided that we were going to try to present in front of an Avima meeting sometime early this year, and then we would try to figure out with tenants associations in the spring or summer, and then move towards a town hall in the late summer or fall when things sort of potentially calm down a little bit. I'm not sure. But Avima was receptive to a February or March for us to present at a February or March meeting. I think we're still waiting on the exact date. I was trying to see if Susan had heard back from them, but perhaps not. Laura, I'm not sure if you know if they are meeting on in February or March. But in any case, that's sort of the plan. I will be reaching out if anybody is interested in actually doing the presentation. I think we need to sort of coordinate how we as a group want to sort of handle the outreach and presentations going forward, if anybody has any ideas or suggestions. I know the office is really swamped with a lot of other things that they're doing. So they are going to be supporting, but it will be up to the committee to do most of the actual outreach work. I can follow up with the exact date and time. I'm not really sure when Avima meetings typically are, but I will be probably looking for another committee member to also participate.
Anisha, I'm happy to do a March date. February's a terrible month for me, but if the date is in March, I'm happy to do it.
Okay, cool. So you might be the only person who wants to do it. So we'll try to go for March then. And I will coordinate with Susan, and I'll be in touch with you directly, and we'll
Great.
figure it out. Cool. So are there any other questions, comments, anything else about the special district? I think we're moving it along as best we can, and we'll see how it goes when people are able to meet more regularly about it.
Anisha, with the economic development meeting and what we're going over, is there any way we can introduce or get us on track to try to encourage or promote businesses in opening up in the city? I know we've been doing a lot of what we did with Chinatown was one aspect, but in general, is there something we can put together or start forming a resolution on ideas on how we can help? I mean, I have some personal ideas,
Sure.
what I've experienced, but I think as an economic development committee, we should be looking at trying to help businesses in general all through CB3 and New York City.
We can certainly add it to the agenda as sort of like a standing item. I think at least, the resources are so limited right now. I think in terms of capital, at least as your programs that we've been looking at or talking about, and everybody has sort of been waiting for whatever the federal government is going to do and then supporting it.
I'm not even talking about capital necessarily.
Sure.
I'm just talking about kind of restructuring the way that New York thinks about businesses, trying to remove some of the barriers that businesses, especially mom and pop businesses that don't have the resources, removing those barriers so they can come in and open up. Because this what Andrew's doing is to try to help the mom and pop businesses in one aspect, but I think we can help them in a broader aspect.
Totally, I agree. And I guess it's going to take a lot of different things besides capital or regulation or whatever by me to actually figure out how to support businesses in the future. So why don't we add it to the agenda for a discussion at our next meeting? Because you're right, I think it is the thing that we need to focus on. And I would love to get ideas from everybody because there isn't necessarily a clear picture yet, but if there are interesting ideas, we can try. Alex?
Thank you.
Your hand up.
Well, the other suggestion is Community Board 2 convened and has had for a long time a task force that actually brings together multiple committees as well as other stakeholders to have like this standing agenda item every month and address different issues that come up on a monthly basis in an effort to try to support small businesses and other people who are affected by the pandemic within their community board district.
Got it. So that's like a multi-committee sort of task force.
It's a more comprehensive idea that might be more effective only because multiple different committees are sitting together and trying to collaboratively address issues that are probably affecting, they cross committees.
We should talk about that at exec and see if that would be something that someone is interested in taking on. But Alistair, certainly for economic development, we can do it, and then I'll raise it with everybody else and see if there's
Thank you.
the task force that we could do also.
And then one last thing I wanted to bring up, and I know I brought this up with you and Nisha, that we wanted to talk about undocumented workers. And you had reached out to a couple of different organizations, and the feedback from them was kind of like, maybe not to highlight it so much because there was fears of, retribution or ICE or things like that. And I don't know, I don't want to completely give up on the idea because, I think it's an open secret that there's so many undocumented workers in New York City. And, they don't get any of the support, even though they're on payroll and they're paying, their taxes. You don't get the benefits, any of those benefits.
Sorry, can I interrupt you, Megan, for a second? You said they're on payroll. I just had a discussion this week with someone, and they were trying to put undocumented workers on payroll. They had a tax ID, but not a social security number, and it's impossible to make them an employee. They can be a independent contractor, but they can't be put on the books as an employee because all the software programs kick out the tax ID number.
Sometimes.
I don't know if we can discuss this in the meeting.
Yeah.
Since
I mean, we could do. I can take this offline. I just.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
But I just to say that, like, I do see the issue, and I want to figure out a way to talk about it. I think that we just need to be strategic in how we do it to make sure that we are doing.
Yeah, I totally
not
agree. I think it doesn't have to be an even next month thing, but I'd like to sort of maybe strategize with one of those groups and see like if there's anything that we could do to help.
Perfect. Okay, great. If there are no other comments from anybody else, I think we can vote to close the meeting and also to approve this resolution.
I'm sorry, Megan, those were groups in the neighborhood that you had talked to?
There were a couple. I had talked to a couple in the neighborhood. I think it was a question of really what we wanted to talk about, and it being a public meeting and talking about, if it would warrant some sort of bad attention, I guess, for it. And I think we just need to we need to do a little bit more research about what specific issue around this we want to talk about.
Yeah, you do have to. Yeah.
Victor?
You're muted, Victor.
Can I make a closing statement at all?
Sure, yes, go ahead.
One of the things that I think people don't really understand that Chinatown's been around for 150 years. It started out because of racism. It had to basically run its own systems, its own economic system. It always was able to, through World War I, depressions, it always took care of itself. It never relied on the government because it knew that the government didn't give a shit about Chinatown. They had exclusion laws. We survived. The big problem right now is that our whole economic base is gone since January. And now even the farmers that supply the restaurants, all the food chain, our whole entire ecosystem has now been destroyed. When we have a food pantry, the lines are, people don't ask. Chinatown people grew up not asking the government for anything. We are now 14% of the city, yet we get 4% of the government budget. I mean, it's just not the city, it's just a microcosm, because when you talk about a larger issue, Chinatown has never gotten or even thought about. It's an afterthought. Like this 2013, oh, we forgot Chinatown. The mayor always comes down, or everybody comes down to take a photo op, but they never think that Chinatown has contributed to America, contributed to the city. It's one of the places that when you come to New York, you want to go to Chinatown. Right now, half of Chinatown is gone, and the rest is like on life support. And unless we get like some kind of, special understanding that this community, 150-year community, is we're at that close from disappearing. You go to Washington, D.C.'s Chinatown, it's gone. They built the freaking, big sports stadium, and boom, no more Chinatown. Well, we're getting close. Between 9/11, closing down Park Row, they always do stuff. The city always it never asks the community. They just close it. Close down Park Row, whatever. Quarantine during 9/11, you couldn't even get in the community. The building burned down, PS23, promises made, but the building is still empty. When are we going to get something? We've been given to the city for 150 years. And it's not only a city, but it's just like Chinatown is not thought about as part of America, for instance. Unless we start demanding, and people in Chinatown, my generation, finally saying, enough. We need help right now. When my friend Patrick was talking to de Blasio, the guy just turned his back and walked away because he asked him a question. Are you going to help Chinatown? Yeah, he's going to help by taking a photo op and walking out of Chinatown. He only came here twice.
Thank you, Victor, for sharing your comments. We really appreciate it.
I'm just saying that what we need to do is really think that Chinatown needs help right now.
Yes.
Beyond all this, flowery, whatever, if we don't get help within the next 6 months, it's going to be gone. 150-year community, gone.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that information. Let's go ahead and vote. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution and to end the meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll second.
Megan, do you want to do roll call?
Misha Stephen,
Yes.
Megan Joy, yes. Alistair Economakis,
Yes.
Andre Gordillo,
Yes.
Herman Hewitt is absent, I think. Joseph Kearns,
Yes.
David Louie,
Yes.
Alexandra Militano,
Yes.
Richard Ropiak,
Richard's there.
Richard, you there?
He's on.
It's saying let him back in. Oh, there it is.
He's on screen.
He might be frozen.
But he's not moving.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to come back to him. Rodney Washington,
Yes.
Andrew Comey,
Yes.
Richard, you there?
He's still here. He's just, I think he's hearing us frozen. There we go.
Oh, there was a yes, Richard?
Thank you everybody so much for all of the work on the resolution and your participation tonight. I am very happy we were able to discuss this issue. It sort of came up last minute or in December. So thank you all for supporting, and looking forward to talking about all of the ways that we can continue to support small businesses and all the other economic development needs of our district in the next meeting and so on.
It passed, by the way.
Yay.
10 yeses.
Yeah.
Unanimous.
Can I please make sure that my name is listed as yes?
Yeah, I heard a mumbled yes while you were, yeah, I got you, Richard.
So we adjourn?
Yes, we're good.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good
Right,
night.
guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Cassy.
I can't leave yet. I'm stuck here now. Sorry.
Hey, Megan, I'm sorry you're stuck, but were we not supposed to discuss special district?
What's that?
Wasn't special district on the agenda and update?
Yeah, we discussed it.
Oh, I missed it.
It was just that we were going to meet with Avima. We called your name a couple of times, but you didn't.
I'm sorry. It was my intern's last day, so I was wrapping up with them and I missed it. I'm sorry
No
about that.
worries. We just talked about that we were going to meet with Avima in January or February, that we were going to nail down a time and who was going to present the material with
Okay.
and Andrew volunteered and
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. I'm sorry about that. It was very distracting because it's their last day.
I know. I figured. I was like, it went by really quickly. It was just about like the next phase of outreach, not really any sort of.
No, and it totally makes sense to have done that first. And I'm really happy for the Chinatown work. It's a heartbreaking situation.
I think it's gonna. I mean, I think what's more important, because I think she's right. Oh, sorry, Anisha's just calling me now. Hey, hang on one sec. I was just talking to Laura. So I think it's for future funding. It's so important as SBS.
It's very important. It's
Yeah.
critical. Thanks again. Thanks
Okay,
again.
cool.
Take care.
I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Okay, bye.
And